Hello, everyone. Deb Helfrich, hashtag Redheaded She-Hulk. This is a Socratic monologue in my Chappelle Challenge series. Just things about mostly racism. It all comes down to fixing anti-racism. I mean, fixing racism by demonstrating the principles of anti-racism. I don't really understand. That's my truth. You can feel my energy just dropping. Racism just perplexes me to no fucking end. So, in my own way, I can't fight the hate, but I can fight the power, and I can fight the fight. By that I mean somebody has to be the owl. Tracy Morgan TV show way. But as the wise feminine philosopher way too. To really come all the way to the precipice of shoving her love of Black people into the public domain. I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't want to be like in any of that. But I want to create entercation. I want to provide a really sort of fun and like, what the hell might come out of her mouth, this performance. It's about profundity. It's about critical thinking more than the joke format that we've become accustomed to, which is really very brutal, very condescending. It, again, in many comedians' hands, such as Dave Chappelle, the jokes and the hurt is meant to illuminate the hurt, so we stop doing the hurt. It's the mirror reflection of like how crazy most of the things that we say in our own minds are, and what we say as a society. But it still comes through to those people who aren't really very optimally mentally fit as making fun of people. And we can also figure out a way to really make respect of people humorously. Right? Make fun has become synonymous with being hypercritical. So we can make respect with humor. Now, I was just streaming a lovely video from my friend Simon, who does the African Father in America podcast. Go check that out on YouTube. And he does an African proverb, little minutes, and this is all just great. One of the things that I really enjoy, I see the strategy in why he's doing that, small downloadable nuggets to promote the really serious discussions he has about being a father, having his perspective, in having guests that just really enrich both my sort of feeling part of the human race, but also as part of the change. I take it very seriously to not be unable to see any of the aspects of my own beliefs and acculturation and assumptions and things like that. these things lead to full-on prejudice and full-on bias. And we have come at it to sort of say, well, don't be prejudiced. And we're now in a period of pointing out just how much of everything going on in the US of hypocrisy is prejudice. What caused so much of that? And that is basically a perception that we as individuals are not responsible to the collective. This hyper individuals always right situation, which is something that the African proverbs stand apart from. I mean, just completely not playing by the rules of how we process thinking about human civilization. This is the cradle of human civilization in Africa, and they have so much wisdom. The proverb of today was, don't confuse the forest you live in for a jungle. As Simon explained, don't let peer pressure and media commercials keep convincing you that what you have, where you live, is in somehow less than. Love the relationships in the cities, in the communities, and the jobs. If you do that fully for just even a second, fully, so maybe for 10 minutes. This is complex. If you really just go, this is where I am, and here's how I got here, and here's how much I owe, you start to have a good idea about how to get where you want to go. It's in all the resistance to where we're at. And I mean, I think I'm talking to myself today in some respect. It's a constant process because you're always in a different place. Even if nothing's really ever changed, you are in a different place. You're a homeodynamic creature, constantly in a state of both adaptation to what's going on around you and evolution. Adaptation is a bodily process. It's like, now we're in COVID. Now we've all had to figure out how to breathe with masks on, how to set aside the constant irritations and so forth, and go, I'm not going to kill anybody today by breathing. In that respect, this pandemic, I mean, it's a forest. We're not able to see past, this little section of trees we're in. Well, so what? We're not in the jungle. We're not in an actively inhospitable environment for human survival. We're in an environment that actually offers some protection. The trees keep us social distance markering. Really, if you think about it like that, right? Trees aren't up on each other's jock. Trees have a respectful distance, and the more respectful the distance, the more they grow. Didn't see that coming. This proverb really resonated for me. I mean, I always enjoy it. And to the point, I'm like, this was the best today. You got to get out of that. But what our culture and what our social media is sort of this hyper complimenting or hyper criticizing. So, it is the best one ever. But I said, it resonates. And it resonates for me because the corollary, it's so true Don't consider the forest you're in a jungle. So true, fundamentally, and so important. Such a, like, I'll be using this forever, that I think to myself, the corollary, the follow on, is also true. That we must assess and have the capacity to see when we're in a jungle. We must be able to call a jungle a jungle. We can adapt to some extent, right? We can figure out elaborate survival strategies, but it will be in our best interest to migrate. Now, back in the day, in strictly evolutionary terms, that is go on walkabout, right? Just make sure I have my little lovely African necklace that I bought in Johannesburg myself. Negotiating with the vendors, having a great time. These three also. Painting from my best friend from college. Bodies can only adapt. They're pretty fixed. We've gotten some capacities to do some changing, but in essence, adaptation is it's a slow process. So to get this right with these words, we can adapt. Evolution, that's like these astonishing things. The lizard starts having wings and creates birds. Now that happened incrementally, but there was some spark in there of creativity of some respect. Lizards were scurrying around, and then this protrusion. And it got bigger and bigger and did different things. And then an equal protrusion. And then it was like they stopped really being able to scurry effectively. So they hang out in trees. One of them done fell out the tree, caught a little wind, was like, I could be like Mike. Scurried right back up the tree and caught some more wind. We got this whole survival of the fittest, this whole male Moore thing. The pleasure principle. I guarantee if we start looking back at evolution, not through the eyes of just maleness, we're going to find a lot of collaboration. We are going to find that evolution is powered by creativity and pleasure. This is why cannabis saved my life, because I was going to die. I had a mold exposure and I was going to die. My brain couldn't function and I had nobody else to help me. And as I optimized my endocannabinoid system via ingesting coconut oil infused with cannabis medicinally on a regular regime, just a tiny bit every morning, like not even an eighth of a teaspoon, just a tiny sliver of that. I found the capacity to be an improv philosopher, to do Socratic monologues about really important topics. I call it #wellbeing philosophy, and I call the persona, the performer, #redheaded she-hulk. The ABCs of well-being philosophy, in this order on purpose. A is for anti-racism. Nothing is going to get solved unless every human understands they are part of one species, Homo sapiens, and then they can begin to understand how Homo sapiens fits into everything better. We're just going to keep categorizing ourselves and judging ourselves and fighting amongst ourselves. Our species will self-extinct in 30 years. It's going to happen quickly. But if we truthfully will understand how similar we are, how interconnected we are with the ecosystems that we depend on, what's going to happen is we can start to build a very humane, life-centric civilization really quickly. All humans originated in Africa. We are all Africans ancestrally. And the sooner that becomes the common pattern around the globe, pale skin aside, I rely on African wisdom. I rely on African friends. I rely on understanding the full depth of my humanity, being influenced by humans of much darker skin than I have. This is a show the world must contend with. Science, math, they've locked us into a mechanistic framework that completely ignores human creativity, human ingenuity, collaboration effects, and all of this marvelous stuff that we know about humans. Humans are situated in the universe, on planet Earth. We're not some new sort of thing. We're the same elements as planets, different combination and much more complex. But it's really, we didn't invent our own elements. Nor do we invent our own forces. The forces of the universe, the elements of the universe, reliably predict humans, our thoughts, our behaviors, our health, and our disease. I'm looking forward to sharing all this in a number of very complex web series. Looking for an executive producer, looking for a patron. Over and out. This is Deb Helfrich at gmail.com.